and welcome to the Adeptus Custodes Tactics video. I am your host, Aaron, and I am one of the many members of Black Crow Gaming. And if you're watching this, thank you very much. And if you could do me a massive favour whilst you're watching this, if you can hit some magical YouTube buttons, if you like the content, you like what you see, it massively helps me. So if you can give me a like, and if you can give me a subscribe, and then if you can hit that bell notification, it really helps us grow as a channel, and then you don't get to miss any of these episodes from the Adeptus Custodes Tactics. Going forward, we obviously can't not talk about our wonderful sponsors. I am very fortunate, alongside with Black Crow Gaming, to be sponsored by Glasshammer Gaming. If you want cheap Warhammer, if you want cheap hobby supplies, if you want a discount on their event, pop in the coupon code Black Crow and you will get an additional 5% off. They already offer up to 15 to 20%, so that's a nice little bumper, right? Like an additional 5%. Every little helps, and that even works on their events as well. Terrain Forge is a fantastic sponsor of ours as well. They do all of our battle report terrain, and they have got some amazing bespoke terrains. When we get their terrain features, we get the Black Crow emblem on there, but you can get your own custom terrain as well. You can get your own team emblem put on your terrain, whether it be WTC, UKTC, or your very own design terrain. If you put in BCG5, you get an additional 5% off with them as well. Right, that is the sponsorship talk done. What is the episode tonight, you're asking? Well, we've been looking at the Adeptus Custodes Tactics Discord. And this is where all my content comes from. And one of the things I've been looking at commonly is, what HQs are we using? And it's really daunting, really, because when you go into this hobby, you've got this number, every army's got a number of HQs. Some of them are rubbish, some of them are amazing, some of them are just bang average. But there's other elements to that. It depends on what you're going to build, how you're going to build your list, what your list is designed to do, what you're trying to get out of the unit. And Adeptus Custodes, although we have fewer models than a lot of armies out there, our characters are some of the most expensive in the game, they're some of the most hard-hitting in the game, and they're some of the most durable in the game. So you're probably wondering, well, Aaron, what ones do I take? Like, what is the HQs performing competitively nowadays? Well, we're going to go through that. I'm going to start with this gentleman first, Trajann Valoris, the leader of the Adeptus Custodes. Whenever he goes into any of your lists, he will automatically become your warlord because he just has to be. It's just cool. Look at him. He's got this big old axe. Anyway, he's 150 points. He's got a damage-free shooting, but it is only strength 5 and it's AP -2 though, which is pretty good. And he does get 2 attacks, and that is assault. That's pretty good. Couple that with some Custodian Guard. He's got that double shoot ability. He's got that re-rolls of 1s or re-rolls to wound on the point. That's okay. His strength 10 in his melee, 6 attacks, damage-free axe, which is also AP -2. And that's pretty good too. Like, strength 10 is a good break point. You're wounding dreadnoughts, most dreadnoughts on 3s. So we like that. We like that. That's good. He's got the moment shackle, which used to be fights first, 2+ invulnerable save, or 12 attacks once per game. The fights first was incredible. That's now gone, and we've got either a 2+ invulnerable save or the 12 attacks once per game. Which, let's be honest, you're basically going to just use this man as a bit of a beat stick. He's going to go in and kill stuff. And at times when you need something really big and killy, you're going to go for the 12 attacks once per game. This is good in both Shield Host, where he's getting the 5 and 6s explode for sustained. It's also good in Orc Champions, when you're like +1 to wound, and he's leading a unit going into battle with that axe. Because Custodes don't have a lot of free damage in their army, so he's one of the few models with access to that at a decent AP, doing decent level amount of damage. In Talons, he doesn't really get any buffs for his combat ability, but there's defensive abilities that are quite good, like that reactive move strat. That's pretty tasty. He has also, as a model himself, got a 5 but feel no pain, which is always strong. always good. He's got, 7 wounds, so pretty tough to kill when you put in the Feel No Pain. If you put him in a blob of Wardens, he's quite hard. He also ignores hit modifiers, which is quite honestly a bit meh. It's, you know, you're hitting on 2s, so most of the time things can only minus you by 1 as per rule, so you're going to be minus to 3. So it's not as good. When it used to ignore all modifiers, so modifiers to wound, modifiers to hit, modifiers, all modifiers, it was excellent. Now you get all of this for 150 points, which in an army that's really elite and really expensive, 150 points is a lot. And yes, he does slap in the right occasion. Don't get me wrong. Which is why he's not a C tier. Okay, I forgot to mention, we are going to be using S, A, B, C, D tiers. Okay, like you do if you watch like a tier review. This is kind of the Adeptus Custodes HQ tier review. And because of that, I'm giving him a B. He's okay. Like, he may get into some builds. Narratively, rule of cool, S tier every single time. But when it comes to competitive, he's just not as good as value for our other HQs, which we're going to go on to. Our next one, we've got the Blade Champion. Now, he is a staple in every list. You're probably going to see 1 of him at minimum. You maybe see 2, even seen 3 in the past. He is excellent, and this is why. He's 110 points, so he's our cheapest custodian HQ by far. He can advance and charge with a reroll to charge. So his advance and charge ability is once per battle, but his reroll to charge, he gets that all the time. So the unit just gets rerolls to charge. That is excellent, because the thing is, your opponent has to always bank on you getting a 6 on your advance and getting a 12 on your charge. Because if they don't, that's going to be that one time where you just roll 6s, bro. Sounding like Manny. And when you advance, charge, your threat range is huge, and no one wants to be charged by an Adeptus Custodes unit, simply because the amount of damage output we can do. In Shield Host, it makes them terrifying. In Auric Champions, it makes them terrifying. They're extremely good. Now, obviously it is only once per battle, so you've got to pick your moment, but you choose. So you move, you advance, and then you choose if you want to charge, which is big. That gives you, like, if you roll really pants on that advance roll, you just move into safety, stage yourself closer, so then they're in your threat range bubble. He's got great weapons as well. So he's got 3 different profiles on his sword. The first one is a precision ability, which is fantastic because then you don't need to spend that 1 CP for heroic challenge. And he's got strength 7, minus 2 AP, 2 damage, and that's 6 attacks. In Shield Host, that is tasty. A lot of characters, especially in like some of the Xeno characters where they're not as tough as like Marine characters, that's pretty scary. That thing that's given the units the big buffs, he comes in, whack, all of a sudden that buff is gone. That's a big deal. And it doesn't cost you a CP to do that. His other one is sustain hits 1. Now, don't just kind of ignore this one. This is your chaff killing. So say, for example, you do lose your whole squad, which does happen, and the Blade Champion's left there on his wands, and someone puts a blob on an Imperial Guard blob, or something that's like toughness 3 on the point to hold it. You could quite comfortably charge him in and do that sustained hits, strength 5, minus 1 damage, 9 attacks. And then you just pick lethals on your martial guitar. So all of a sudden he's got lethals, he's got sustained, they're activated on 5 and 6s, and you just go in and you go and you chop them all to bits. Does happen. He's basically like a little whirlwind, whirly bird in the middle of that point, just killing everything there. The other one, which is probably my favourite of his profile, is the Dev Wound one. It's extremely good, especially if he's coupled with Custodian Guard, because he gets those rerolls. Strength 6, which is, fine. Minus 3, which is big. We don't have a lot of minus 3 in Custodes. And 3 damage, which is, again, big. Only 5 attacks, though. And that can whiff 5 dice gods. There is a chance it's not always going to work, but when it works and it pays off big. If you're going into a vehicle and you go lethals, you just kind of disregard the death wound because you're probably going to be doing more damage via the lethals, especially in shield hosts. In Auric champions, when you've got that +1 to wound, it's a different story because you're going to be going into stuff that's higher toughness than you, wounding them on 5 and 6s. It's now 4, 5, and 6s. So it's it's a different story. The Blade champion, because of these stats and abilities, he is an S tier HQ. He is fantastic, and people, if you don't have a Blade champion, go out and buy one. He should be in every list you build because he's just that good. I mean, there's nothing much more I can say to him. He will probably be our strongest HQ for a long time. However, as we go through the list, we're going to talk about other utilities and their HQs. He can obviously take enhancements as well, which make him better, which obviously Trajann can't take enhancements because he's a named character. And that does give him the slight edge, which is why he's S tier. Our next ones, we've got the shield captains. Now, I whacked these all on one slide because we've got 3 different variants, and I'm going to kind of grade them all under the same. Yes, some shield captains are probably better than others, but they all have very different utility, and I like that about them. If only the supporting units that went with some of them, the Virtus Praetors, were slightly better. Anyway, let's get into it. So they're all 140 points. All the shield captains, no matter what source or flavor you go for, they're all 140 points. And we're going to start with the Alaris Terminator shield captain. One of my favorite builds. He has a single character to take is excellent. And the reason that is because he's toughness 7. He's got loads of wounds. He's got good profile with the spear. He's very strong. He's got access to good enhancements from Auric, from Shield, from Talons, all of that. But his big ability is that he turns all damage on himself to 1 once per battle. So just let that sink in. He's got 7 wounds, folks. That means you have to fail 7 4-up invulnerable saves. If you're in Auric Champions, you can give him Feel No Pain. And you can stack that Feel No Pain, which is, huge. And I think he's value on that one. Like all the other shield captains, he also has this free strat ability, which isn't a free strat ability, it's just -1 to the stratagem cost. So as a single miniature, he's pretty awesome. But when you couple him with with his Terminator buddies, he's also a really good support character. He gets the benefits of them, where he gets the rerolls to wound if it's a character or a vehicle. And he's that kind of last stance. You get through the 20 or so ablative wounds to then get to him, and then you're like, get through me, Mal. Come at me, bro. And that's really cool. It's really strong. There's different enhancements to make them much better, to triple EOC, -1 to hit, extra wounds. There's a lot of utility. I personally love him with a block of 5 Terminators, with the 5-point enhancement from Shield Host to give him ignore cover, because they've actually got an obnoxious amount of shooting. With that, with the wrist-mounted grenade launcher and the spears, and you can give them sustained, or you can do it. All of a sudden, there's an awful lot of damage output, and I think you'd be shocked just how much damage they can do. The next shield captain is the Virtus Praetor shield captain. So the guy on a bike. So yes, he's got a bunch of wounds. He's toughness 6, he's moves 12, but he is affected by pivot now, which is really annoying. And he has got this lance ability. The guns that they carry are a bit meh, the salvo launcher or the just hurricane bolters, which are not great. But he does have this cool ability when he's with his unit, which is at the end of the fight phase, he can move as he's got a movement once per battle. So basically, if you're in engagement range or you're out of engagement range, at the end of a fight phase where he has fought, he can then move normally. So it's kind of like a fire and fade, except it's a stab and fade. And that's really cool. That's a cool ability, except a lot of people use him on his own as kind of like a little torpedo. That's a tactic you can use. and he's got Lance, which makes him good, and he's uh, but he is somewhat lackluster because the Vertus Praetors are just still too expensive. They need to come down in points. I think they need to come down a fair whack. Like we talk about it in the Custodes Discord, and it's such a negative because everybody loves the models, but they're just not quite there yet. I want to use them in a competitive build. I'm desperate to get them back on the table. So I'm hoping that 6 or 7 more data slates down the line, they might be worth taking, but who knows. The next one is the standard shield captain, the one on foot. Now you can take him in multiple flavors, but the only one that's worth taking now is the one with the shield and the Pariah spear, and the reason that is you get a melter and you get an extra wound. Excellent, can't ask for more. That's a fair combo. And he also gives them multiple guitars, and you're probably, Aaron, what does that mean? Well, once per battle, he can use both lethal and sustained in his unit. That makes that unit crazy killy. Like, really killy. Because, a custodian guard, for example, reroll to wound, you're getting sustained, you're getting lethals, you're just going absolutely berserk. And that in itself is strong. He's got the free strat ability. It's 140 points still, though, but that's still strong. And you're probably thinking, Aaron, these guys have got some great abilities. Why are they not S tier? And the reason is because it's 140 points. It's difficult as custodian players to build our list because our lists are expensive. Our units are really elite, and that's fine. And if you want to play Hero Hammer in Auric, it works. In Talons, they've got a space as well. However, I think when you're writing your list, you're going to use the other S tier guy as well, and Blade Champions, and then you're going to be all of a sudden thinking, oh, well, if I'm taking Shield Captains, I'm running out of space. But it depends on what you want to do from your list. Don't take this as gospel. If you want to build your list a certain way, if you really like the idea of the Terminator Captain in with the Alaris coming down and just doing mass damage, use it. Think about the meta in your area. Think about the terrain you're playing on. All of these captains have a play. The Shield Captain with the Pariah spear and can go with the unit with Pariah spears. Difficult to say. And if you give them, you can give them a host of benefits, and that unit's actually quite tasty. You go into Auric, that spear unit with the melters is wounding on 4s. That is good. So, for that reason, they have got an A tier. So, definitely worth putting into list, definitely worth considering. A tier is where they're currently sat at. Our next one on the list is Valerian. Now, sorry about that. I had to kind of stumble as I was going through. So, Valerian is excellent. I was a little bit on the fence with him for a while, and I had no idea why. I used him recently and was like, oh my god. This man, he's got props. So, he's 110 points, so he's the same cost as a Blade Champion, so he is value. He's got a Strength 8, AP -3, 2 damage, 7 attack spear. That is actually a lot. That is a lot of damage. AP -3 is big because anything like that sort of AP, you're getting through your Armor of Contempt, which is pretty big. The -1 damage on some of these monsters you'll fight is still a bit meh, but you're stacking damage, and that's what's important. Now, this is the big one. In a melee meta, which is what we are currently sat in, there is a lot of AP 2 damage weapons out there. Valerian -1 AP 2 melee attacks coming into your unit. Now, I'm going to let you soak that in for a bit. That is insane. When he is in a block of wardens who have got -1 to wound when someone's attacking them above the strength of their toughness, a strength which is above their toughness, -1 AP, turning those AP -2 to AP -1, giving those wardens free up saves. That's pretty big, and it goes a long way. It really goes a long way. All of a sudden, they're lasting a lot longer in combat, where recently their output has been a bit disappointing. Valerian makes up with that by making them extremely tough to shift off a point. And what's amazing about that is, Wardens can take the banner that's giving them all free OC. They've all got their spears. They can do their feel no pain. And then they can just be there and be like the last stand at the gate with Valerian, like, you shall not get through us. And that is cool. Very good. His other ability is pretty interesting. He can flip a hit, a wound, or saving throw to a 6 once per battle. That's actually quite clutch at times, because it's basically your free CP reroll, and you're only ever going to use that for your save and throw on him. Just flat. You don't need to do it on hits. You don't need to do it on wounds. You want to do it on the saving throw, because when the clapback comes back, you want him to live. He has also got a 6-up feel no pain, which, you know, every little helps. A 6-up feel no pain is not great, but it's not bad. Like, it's better than not having a 6-up feel no pain. So essentially, this man is tough. He's tough when he's in a unit of Wardens. He's strong on that point where you can use stratagems to buff them. And this is why he is sitting at S tier. And I thoroughly suggest to every Custodian player out there to seriously think about the meta that's in your local area, because he should be in your list. He is extremely strong. That is a general consensus amongst the Adeptus Custodes Discord, and which obviously you guys can come and join. If you like what you're seeing, come join us in the Adeptus Custodes Discord, be a part of the conversation, and help me make content, because all of this content comes from those people in this Discord. So this is where this discussion comes from. We're getting on to our last slide now, folks, and we're going on to the sisters. Now, I've done a layer and Knight Centurion bow because they're not really a mainstay. Like, Null Maidens in the UK, it has always been seen as being a real disappointment. And I know someone out there went and won a GT with it, but it wasn't the sisters that won in that fight. And to be fair, the guy is obviously clearly an amazing player, and he was able to utilize that list really well. But when you think about like the masses and everybody, sisters are not something that are being used that well. But let's have a look at them as HQs, because as HQs, they've got some decent rules. So Alea is 75 points, which is one of our cheaper HQs. She's got the Scout 6 ability, so when she's with the Witch Seekers, she can also Scout 6, which is nice, especially because that works the way that works. She has Fights First, which is great with the, I think they're Vigilators or whatever they're called, the girls with the swords. She makes them really nice. She's got Feel No Pain 5+ innately, which is nice. We're seeing a lot of Feel No Pain. And she's got a 3+ Feel No Pain to Psychic, which is nice. Her main ability, though, is that she's got +1 to hit roll if the unit she's attacking is below starting strength. And she's got +1 to wound in addition if they're below half. That's pretty tasty. The unit assisters can do a lot of damage by that way. But again, they don't really benefit from a lot of the Custody rules, so it's hard to really push them that high up into the rankings for Custodies, because they don't get some of the benefits. And yes, they've got Null Maiden, but Null Maiden just doesn't cut it, which is unfortunate. The Knight Centurion, she's 70 points, only 5 points left. She also has Scout 6, and while leading a unit, she adds 2 to movement, advance, and charge. That's pretty awesome, because if you don't advance, look at it this way. You've got 2 to your movement, you've got 2 to your charge range. So basically, you've just got move, advance, and charge, but your advance is always a 4. That's the best way to look at it. So you all of a sudden, you can give these girls with swords, they've got quite a big threat range. You know, that's quite substantial. So it's 6, 10, and then another 12 on top. So that's 22 inches threat range with those swords. Blob of 10 with her. That's pretty tasty. It's pretty scary, actually. And when units are with engagement range, they must take a desperate breakout test when falling back from them, which is also meh, I guess. But it's that utility of movement. And in a game where speed is key, that's really good. Again, though, it's one of those questions. It's like, do you want to take them over Custodians, which do a lot more damage, a lot more durable? I'm unsure. There's definitely lists out there where you can take her with the token and 10, or you just taking your Witch Seekers to go around and do your action, but not necessarily taking these as characters. Because, you know, 50 points for 4 girls to go off and get you containment or go do establish locus for you, or sabotage, recover assets, those sort of things. That's what they're going to be used for. They're not there to do the damage. And to be frank, I don't think you should be using them to do damage. But that's my personal opinion. Someone out there, please tell me if I'm wrong. Write it in the comments. Now, overall, I've kind of gone through all of the different HQs for the Custodes. Now, obviously, you can take what I say and use it and run it back. And then if you disagree, come into the Adeptus Custodes Discord and tell us what your experience. We have a whole section which is just for people to do write-ups of like their experiences, and then we can kind of read through that and see like what's been effective, and there's like a common trend. We'll follow that trend and we'll give it a go. And this is about a community effort to try and help get the best out of this army, and that's really cool. So if you're interested, the link will be in the it'll be in the description. Basically, jump on that Discord link and you'll come straight to it. But I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Adeptus Custodes Tactics. I've been your host, Aaron. I'm from Black Crow Gaming. We also have a podcast on a Monday night, which I used to do, but I'm just taking some time away. My friends Toby and Sam are currently doing an amazing job on that, so go watch the latest episode on there. And if you like battle reports, my man Josh, Simon, and Sam, who do a lot of the battle reports, they're doing a fantastic job. Go and watch those as well. But that's me Aaron from Black Crow Gaming. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Like and subscribe. See you later, guys.